Another sunny day in glorious Norfolk. So I think we're past the point now where I have to worry about frosts, and it's time for me to get those heat-loving plants out. So I've got a couple of courgettes that I want to put into the ground. But also, stay tuned, because if you're potting up any geraniums, or we should really call them pelargoniums, I've got a couple of tips for you if you're planning to do them in pots. And once we've done that, we're also going to go outside and harvest some turnips. I've got some that are looking absolutely lovely, prime and ready to go. So grab a cup of tea and join me outside. I've got this bed all ready and prepared with a mulch of some fresh compost on top, and underneath there's a mix of compost, topsoil and manure. And you know, you could probably fit about 3 plants in here, but I'm going to just go with the 2, have them evenly spaced like this, about just over a foot or so apart. And I've probably got room to plant in some other crops among them, but for now, let's just get these in the ground and make sure they're happy. What you'll notice I did with that one was I kind of did a saucer around the plant so there's space for the water to gather when you water it, so it doesn't just run off to the side. And we'll do the same with this one here. These are a really lovely variety from Real Seeds called Striato di Napoli. So they're kind of like a striped Italian courgette. So if ever you've been on holiday and you've seen lovely looking stripy courgettes and you've wondered why yours don't look like that, it's just a case of variety, and you'll find that there are different ones from different parts of Italy, and this variety is from Naples. So really excited to get these going. I grew them last year, they were lovely actually, excellent flavour. Right, so that one is in the ground, all ready to go. All that's left to do is water them in, and I've got one more tip on them for you. Right, let's get these watered in. One of the best bits of advice that I got on planting anything out like this actually, if you've got the ability to do it, is to cover them with fleece just for a week or so. And the reason why is that the young leaves like this dry out in the wind, so if you've got any strong winds or anything like that, you'll often find that those first leaves dry up, go to a crisp, and then all of a sudden your plants are struggling, and that's when they're vulnerable to slugs. So what I'll do is water these in, make sure they've got plenty to get those roots going, and then we'll cover them up with a fleece. There's a mix of crops in these beds. I've got some turnips, as I mentioned here, also some beetroot beyond there, some potatoes and a couple of fennels that I've snuck in as well. But looking amongst them, I can see that there are some turnips that are absolutely perfect to pick. So I'll get these harvested, and then, like I said, I'm going to pickle these, I think, and have them all nice and crunchy and fresh tasting with some Asian food. So let's get harvesting. These turnips have been a really fun crop this year. As a vegetable, they're actually pretty versatile. So I, as I mentioned, have pickled them and had them with Asian dishes, but the tops you can also stir fry. But the root itself, I mean, there's different ways you could prepare it. You could have them slow cooked in a stew or a casserole, something like that. You could make a coleslaw with them. You could even just pop them into a salad. Depends what you like and how you like to eat them, really. But I think of them a bit like I suppose a mild radish is a good way to think of them. But definitely, if you haven't grown these, you may have missed the boat for this year here in the UK. You could probably try them again later in autumn. But get them on your list to try soon, because they're certainly a crop that I'll be growing again. Well, hopefully those turnips are going to be really delicious. I had a little bite of one just off camera and it's so tender and sweet. So yeah, something to really enjoy this time of year. Now, I did say that I was going to get some pelargoniums potted up for you and that I had some tips. And the top tip that I've got to say really is to make sure you get a little bit of this, which is horticultural grit into your potting mix. And the reason why is that they absolutely love to have just that little bit of drainage. They're kind of like succulents, I suppose, if you think about it. So the plan is just a few handfuls into the compost, and then we'll get them potted up. I want to start just by getting all of that grit well mixed into the compost. I see, you're not going for like a cactus mix here. You just want a bit running through it so that it gives that extra bit of drainage, brings in a bit of aeration into the mix, and allows those roots to thrive. Here's the pot. I like to start with just a little bit of clink in the bottom. I'm not particularly precious about cleaning the pots up. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's time now just to add in this mix that I did on camera for you a moment ago. And you just want to make sure when you are topping up pots like this that you leave a good inch at the top, so when you water it doesn't just run off, but it's got somewhere where it can pool slightly. These pots are quite handy because they have that rim there which just indicates where that fill line is. So the amount of compost that I've got here is perfect, which is great. And now it's time to get these plants in, and they're lovely, really good specimens, especially this one. They're from a local nursery that do a lot of the propagation and things themselves, so it's really nice to be able to support somewhere like that. And they've just got that characteristic smell, which I absolutely love. Let's say some people will know these as geraniums, but the correct term for these is pelargoniums. I've got one red and one white for each pot. And I like to also top the plants off with a dressing of horticultural grit as well. Not only does it look nice, but it also helps with that running off of the water. It helps it all just sort of stay in place nicely and suppress a few weeds as well. Well, I think those pelargoniums are going to be really happy in there. Here's another example, by the way, which is a trailing pelargonium that's been planted up in this urn. I've done the same thing with just giving it that top dressing as well. And what I love about it is it's quite ornate. You know, it's in a terracotta urn, but it's quite understated as well, especially with just the one plant trailing out. So it almost looks like it's arrived there by chance. Anyway, I'm glad that if you are a new viewer that you found this video by chance, and if you've enjoyed it, do go back and look at some of my other videos. Plenty there, about 100 or so now for you to enjoy. And I hope that you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.